Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Good to have you along with us. This morning, our spotlight is on Brian Walshe, the Massachusetts father accused of murdering and dismembering his wife, Anna. Her body's never been found. Opening statements are expected to begin in this case on Monday. How did we get here? Well, Court TV's crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson fills us in.
No comment from Brian Walshe after he was charged with the murder of his wife, Anna Walshe, the missing Massachusetts mother of 3 young boys. And while he's not talking, prosecutors are piecing together a timeline of what they say he was doing in the days after her disappearance. Anna was last seen at home between 4 and 5 a.m. by a family member. Walshe told police that he had slept in that morning, but prosecutors say that he was actually awake and searching disturbing topics on his son's iPad.
At 4:55 a.m. on January 1st, he searched how long before a body starts to smell. At 4:58 a.m., how to stop a body from decomposing. At 5:20 a.m., he searched how to embalm a body. At 5:47 a.m., 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. At 6:25 a.m. on the 1st, how long for someone to be missing to inherit. At 6:34 a.m. on the 1st, can you throw away body parts?
The very next day, more Google searches.
There were also more Google searches on January 2nd. At 12:45 p.m., hacksaw best tool to dismember. At 1:10 p.m., can you be charged with murder without a body? At 1:14 p.m., can you identify a body with broken teeth?
Prosecutors say that on January 2nd, Walshe came here to this Home Depot store, located in Rockland, Massachusetts, 9 miles from his house. He spent $450 on cleaning supplies.
Items included cleaning products, mops, brushes.
On January 3rd, prosecutors say Walshe drove to an apartment complex in Abington, 16 miles from his home, where they say surveillance video shows him hoisting a heavy garbage bag into a dumpster. At 4:48 p.m., prosecutors say Walshe drove to a second apartment complex in Abington. And at 5:10 p.m., investigators say he threw items away into a dumpster in Brockton. Then on January 6th and 7th, police searched the Walshe property in Cohasset. Prosecutors collected a lot of evidence in the basement of this home, including DNA blood evidence and 2 knives. On January 8th, Walshe was arrested for misleading police in his wife's missing person investigation.
The defendant is now before the court charged with murder of his wife, Anna Walshe, as well as disinterring of a body.
Okay, again, opening statements set to begin next week. Thank you to Matt Johnson. For more on the case, let's bring in from Massachusetts, trial attorney Wayne Dennison. Wayne, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. I want to talk about the strategic decision Walshe and his team made by pleading guilty to the lessers and basically getting off of the table the horrific details that might have clouded a jury. I mean, I think he's cooked anyway, given the amount of evidence, but let's start there.
Yeah, the strategy there was a little strange to begin with. The notion that there is no body, therefore there is no crime, was always the defense here. In fact, he basically Googled it. But now he's admitted to a body. And so this looks to me like it's going to come down to a question of whether the prosecution can establish adequately a cause of death. And this will be the obligation, the burden of proof on the prosecution to say that he caused the death of Anna Walshe. And that strategy minimized the amount of horrible dismemberment testimony you were otherwise going to hear. But that evidence is nevertheless coming in.
So we should expect possibly opening statements from the defense as you're going to hear, possibly from the defendant, that there was a horrible accident. She fell down the stairs and he didn't know what to do. And that's why he got rid of his wife's body, he got scared. Is that the only? I mean, it seems like the very small window they've created for themselves.
There are two paths here that I see possible, and they may in fact be combined. They're either going to come forward with an explanation as to how she died and then try to sell it. And the only way you could possibly sell it is with Brian Walshe testifying. But he has some impairments to begin with, given his pending criminal charges and the fact he was on house arrest. Or they're just simply going to come in and say, he's been charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution has an obligation to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. They cannot prove cause of death. They cannot prove premeditation. They cannot prove extreme cruelty in the manner in which he died. Therefore, they cannot prove first-degree murder.
How much play is this getting in New England? Is this a case people are monitoring?
It's getting an enormous amount of play, second only to the Karen Reed case that was tried in the same courthouse. It's very well known. That's why Judge Fournier has asked the jury, in fact, directed the jury not to look at social media, not to watch the news, because it will be played on every news channel in the greater Boston, greater New England area.
And here on Court TV as well. The details of this, the Google searches from his son's iPad at these hours in the morning are, you could just visualize this guy with a dead body next to him going to town on the iPad thinking, oh boy, I'll just use my son's iPad. They'll never figure that one out. And then he does what every dumb criminal does. He goes to the local Home Depot. I mean, it seems like the Commonwealth has one heck of a case here.
I think they do have one heck of a case here, but they still have to prove how she died, or at least get to a circumstance under which the jury would conclude that he murdered her. And that's the ultimate bar for the prosecution here, and that's the narrow window you talked about that the defendant here is trying to get through. The difference here between first-degree murder, it means that he stays in jail for the rest of his life. If he can get that charge reduced to a lesser included charge, he has a possibility of parole.
Yeah, well, we'll be watching to see it all play out. I think the opening statements will really be telling to see which strategy the defense is going to go with as we get ready here. We'll all be watching. Wayne, as always, thank you.